All right, Peter, come bring the stage. Let's rock it for peeps. Give a warm welcome to Peter. High five. Just a high five. Just a high five. You got it, man.
All right, so this room looks a lot bigger from up here. There's like a million eyes just all staring at you. So before we start, I just wanted to say a couple of things and say thank you to a couple of people. First, I want to say thank you to Sumner and his team for the opportunity. It's kind of crazy. We both started talking like when we first got into this business, and a couple years later, now we're here, and it's pretty it's surreal. Second thing, I want to say thank you is to my friends who are here, Drew, Jaron, Ajay. I'm really nervous, but yeah. And all the new friends and connections and all this stuff, like I appreciate all of you. A lot of our clients, or some of our clients, are actually here, so thank you for supporting me and our business. And the third thing I wanted to say is all of you. It's really amazing to even have the opportunity. Like the land thing is it's a small niche, and the fact that we're here all together, and this is how we chose to spend our weekend. I think we should congratulate one person. So if you want to turn to the person next to you and just say congratulations, right?
Congratulations. Hey, Peter, do you mind if I tell a quick story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We'll wait for settle down. All right, guys. I'm gonna just share a really, really quick story, and then we'll give the mic back to Peter. And I want to just comment on Peter's integrity, man. I think the land business is very, very special. Everyone works together, typically, a lot of collaboration. And it's a small little pond, and if you burn bridges, it'll catch up to you pretty quickly. Who here knows kind of how my business is built out? I feel like some people might have context, kind of like the different conveyor belts, if you will, that we have in our business. I'm an owner finance junkie, man. I just can't get off it. I just love it. I love it. Like now that we have years and years of data, when I look at the returns on these properties, they're just bananas. And it's unfortunate. A lot of them do default. But I have a whole team that manages our note portfolios, and there's a lot of work that goes in to getting these people to pay on time and to answering questions that are ongoing. We've had some properties that we've literally sold 10 times over again. It's pretty insane. So there's three components to our business. There's kind of our little owner finance model, and we don't do a lot there. We probably add $500,000 to $1 million a year of new kind of note value to our portfolio. We got our mid-market stuff. That's what everyone here is familiar with. And then as of the last 15 months, more of like the value add stuff. So Peter, like the bulk of your business is selling portfolios to other land investors. Am I right? You used to do the retail stuff, not so much anymore.
About 60% is actually wholesale, buy and sell to other land investors, and then 40% is still like our traditional retail business.
Yeah. So I was running low on our dirt cheap inventory, and one of the things I love about it is like, I don't think having a website in the land business is that important, but we've had our land business website up for a long time, and it gets a decent amount of just organic reach. It's like 4,000, 5,000 visits a month. And people just buy properties on there. Sometimes they're high ticket properties, typically it's our cheaper stuff. So it's like very, very low friction to us. And we have these folks that go to our website, and so I'm like, we always need to have some inventory there for their kind of starter properties. We have a $49 down kind of like starter plan for these properties. And a lot of folks visit there. And so Peter reached out to me, he's like, hey, I've got a bunch of these properties, huge portfolios. And I was like, sure, I'll scoop up some. And we bought a couple different portfolios from him, and one of the portfolios we bought ended up having some title issues. We went to go and sell it. It's like a $1,200 property, and someone went to close their title. I'm like, this never happens. And we ran into some title snags. And look, there's no returns in real estate. I'm never going to be one to say like, hey, give me my money back. Peter did offer that though, which was pretty crazy. And I'm like, no, it's equally on me. But I get a wire the other day from Peter for $5,000 as a 25% reduction in the price that we paid because he wanted to do the right thing and he wanted to maintain the relationship. Whether you buy land from Peter or not, I just think that's a story worth telling because the guy's integrity is in the right place, and I just wanted to share that. So thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Sumner. I think I finally caught my breath. So, okay, so I'm going to do this presentation and talk about two things. The first part is going to be about land, and the second part is I'm going to talk about social media and TikTok, because we really built our business for like the first year and a half exclusively through TikTok. And I mean, we had like a small land.com subscription, but we've sold so much land through TikTok. And I wanted to share some of, like our strategy and some hacks, if any of you like hacks. So, all right, let's get started. So this is me. My name is Peter. I got into the land business 22 years ago. And that's me making my first cold call or whatever. Yeah. So, ever since I was young, so I moved to this country when I was 7 years old, and we used to live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and at that time we had this like really shitty car. It was a 1990 Toyota Corolla. I mean, it's a great car, but it was just, But one day I was sitting at a stop sign, and we were, new to this country, and right next to me there's this car that I've seen in movies. And you see it everywhere, and it was a Lamborghini Gallardo. And on that, the car was actually wrapped with like promoting some website. And I was like, hey, if this guy, who we're in the same zip code just by proximity, I'm like, this is amazing. Like people drive Lamborghinis here. And ever since then, I was so interested in like becoming really wealthy. And, and I found the way to do that I've noticed is a lot of people started their own businesses. And so my first business was actually computers. So I think that was when I was like 14 years old. And I would buy computers from what's called like an off-lease distributor. So corporate companies, like every 3 or 4 years or whatever, they have to throw out all their old computers and they have to get new ones. And I don't know why they do that. They still work fine, but they just have money to burn through. So I would go to these people and I would buy these computers. So literally, I wish I had a picture, but I know this is one of them. But I started with $300 that my dad gave me, and it was the same model that I still do today with land. And we would buy these computers for $30 or $40, and we would sell them on eBay. And this was like when eBay was, it wasn't new, but it was new to me. And so I was literally this like 15-year-old kid fixing up computers, selling them on eBay, and Craigslist, which my dad actually, I used to meet people when I was like 15, but my dad would come with me. And it's the same thing that we do with land. But anyway, so that's my best friend Matt from high school. He's sitting in the back right there. So we started a clothing brand called the Phi Concept, which we sold last year. So basically we were in the clothing business for a long time, but it was the same model. We were always buying shirts and whatever product we were selling from like wholesalers or distributors, and we would resell them. And then I published the book. So the first land deal, right? So why do I not send mail? When I started, it's because I didn't know how to. And it just seemed like a lot of work. And I try to go, in the path of least resistance. So I was looking up, when I was in college, this was when I was like 21, I was trying to figure out a way to get into like real estate. And I realized that no one was going to give me a loan to do rentals, which is kind of like the traditional path. So I started looking at other things like mobile homes, and then land came up. So I had this idea, which was I ended up on this website called landwatch.com. And I pretty much started cold calling all these random companies. And I think that's how, honestly, that's how I think I got your number. Is by looking at, anyone that's selling land for under 50 grand, and I would just cold call them. I'm like, hey, because at first I was a buyer. I was like, hey, if people get wealthy by owning real estate. So I started calling. And the first guy that I bought wholesale from was Matt Nunn. So I called him, and he's like, yeah, there's this whole business. We buy land from people that don't want it, and then we sell it for a profit, and then we do this thing called owner financing. And he's like, yeah, you don't need to do a credit check. You don't need to get a bank loan or anything like that. And I was just completely blown away by that whole model. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, so how can I get into this business? And then he started talking about mailers and like negotiating with the land sellers and all this stuff. And it just seemed like a ton of work. So I was like, hey, if I were to buy like in bulk from you, would you sell me a few pieces of land where I can still buy it from you and sell it and make a profit? So that's how we started. And this, I think I tried to pull up like the oldest email I had from him. And that was in March 13 of 2020. So the first package was one lot in Elko for $900. And the second and third lot were like some Coaches lots for $500 a piece. So ever since then, so I bought those 3 deals, and then I did a bunch of land arbs. So I bought like a package of 25 lots in Valencia County, like literally desert squares. And with that same company, we went from 25 parcels all the way up to 300, because I started this business with like $2,000. So currently our business is pretty much 40% retail. Last year, at our peak of like the retail stuff that we were doing, we had about 380 notes. And most of our business actually was owner financing. So we would do like no credit check, $99 or $199 notes. And basically we built up a portfolio of them, and we never used to wholesale because we just were selling everything. But then once I really got into learning how to acquire, we just had so much inventory that was just sitting on our books. And I'm like, hey, why don't I just keep selling land to other investors and to keep the liquidity and things rolling. So our current team, right now it's just me, and Mike was here earlier. Some of you guys might have met him. So we have 4 team members in the States, Joy, Arinola, Mike, and Noah. And then we have a team in the Philippines and 1 team in Pakistan. So that pretty much, I don't think I covered most of the things about like our business. But I'll move on to TikTok. But any questions so far on I know we were going to do questions at the end, but take a breather. No? Yeah.
So where exactly are you sourcing your deals? Where's that?
Yeah, so there's 2 avenues. The first one is we actually buy from other investors. So we're kind of like, if someone wants to get out of the business or they just want to do larger deals, they'll sell to us. And the second thing is also like tax deeds. So we buy tax deeds. So it's just a mix of both. No more questions. All right.
On the tax deeds, how do you work through the final action and all that? I just like a perspective, the exercise we talked over, how do you go into those lessons?
Yeah, no, so the thing is, most of the land that we do it's very cheap, right? So to even do quiet title, it just takes so much effort that we just don't. And because it's so cost prohibitive, because if we're retailing for $5 or $10 grand, it's going to cost you maybe $5 grand to do a quiet title. So yeah. Wholesale or retail? Yeah, so wholesale you're usually looking at like 20%, which is it's very low for this business, but it's still good when you move through like hundreds of parcels. And for retail, usually it's like 3x, like just the traditional stuff. So okay, yeah, let me move on. So marketing, so TikTok, right? So during the pandemic is when I started TikTok, and it was really early, and I heard people, they're like, oh, TikTok's gonna be the next big thing. And at that time, there was only one other land guy who was actually making content, and that was Luke from Rural Vacant Land. Yep. Yeah, he's an OG, even his like. So I downloaded TikTok for fun, and basically I saw him making content, and I was like, hey, I could do this. Like, I could try and make some videos. And at first I was like, who cares, right? Like, why? First of all, do any of you guys make content for whatever you're doing? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, all right. So. Yeah, no, so at first I didn't really care, but then when I tried experimenting and it started working, it became an amazing customer acquisition channel, even on the buy side, right? Like, we traditionally didn't buy one-off properties, but we would get messages and be like, hey, I own this, like, and now it just seems like the dream, right? If I knew some of you guys back then, they would have been great, because we had people message us and they're like, oh, we have 30 acres here that my family owns and we want to sell it. So yeah, we would get all these messages, but the main thing was we were able to use TikTok to sell land. One time, I vividly remember, we had this one video that went super viral. I think it hit 3.9 million views, and I woke up to like 15 term sales through our payment processor on our website, and every 45 minutes I would refresh my email and it would say recurring plan created. And it was just crazy. I was like, you know, how long do I have to like keep posting land watch listings to make a sale every 45 minutes? So the thing with TikTok that I've noticed is, number one, if you're clipping videos, like I've tried, you know, taking like a long form podcast that I did and clipping it down and posting it. So TikTok rewards like native videos. So if you pull out your phone and you record natively in the app, for some reason, I think that's the biggest hack out of all of it, is a lot of people clip videos from somewhere else and they try to post it on TikTok, and it usually doesn't go anywhere. But if you shoot natively in the app, it works really, really well. So the way I did it at first was, we would do 3 videos a day, and they were really short. They were 10 to 15 seconds each. And I never did a ton of editing, but if you guys really want to make edited content, you could use Fiverr for, you know, just hiring people to edit content. And the 2 tools that I use is Opus.pro. So if you want to clip long form content and post it, you can use Opus.pro. And the second thing that's really been working recently is repurpose.io. So that second tool is really crazy, because the problem with social is when you post on one platform, it doesn't go everywhere. And with repurpose.io, we actually started building up our YouTube channel now with shorts. So any TikTok video that gets posted goes automatically to YouTube and a whole bunch of other places. So that's a really powerful tool. And I think we picked up like 2,000 subscribers on YouTube from not producing any specifically new content for YouTube and just reposting stuff from TikTok. So the hard thing with making content is it really like takes a lot of time. And the way I always do it is I spend 1 or 2, like I take 1 or 2 days a week and I film all the content for, you know, 1 to 3 weeks ahead. So I don't like making it like I have to wake up every day, because, you know, we still have a business to run and land to sell and buy. So basically we would batch produce videos 1 to 2 times a week. And we alternate between really short videos and long videos as well. And the third one, which is actually how we blew up our clothing brand, was if you don't like making videos and you don't want to be on camera, you can actually just hire someone to produce the content for you, but you'll still reap the benefits from it. So hiring someone, you know, who might be better on camera if that's not your thing. Even more content tips. All right. Okay, yeah, the first thing I would say is try to minimize editing. If you don't have like a crazy, like some of you guys have a really good content team, and that's fine if you do that, but like when you're starting, and if you're a one-man band like I was when I started the TikTok account, it's best to just shoot natively in the app and just speak. And do things like go live, and it's crazy. The best accounts that I've seen are usually like the most just shitty content, but it works, right? Because you can take the high road and make like the really fancy stuff, or you can just make the really organic stuff, which I'll show you an example of a video. So, but for me, the best thing has just been like literally phone on a tripod and me talking into it. So basically, this is kind of what Sumner was saying. Like when I first started, my example script would be to promote a property. It would be like, hey guys, got this 0.25 acre parcel in Valencia County, New Mexico for $99 a month, owner finance or $1,500 cash. And that's it. And it would be, just showing a video of like MapRight or something and zooming in and out and showing like the checkout page. And that's worked really well. Some of our best videos was just from doing this, and we sold a ton of land. And even if you look at, Luke from Rural Vacant Land, he makes the same type of videos, and I took a page from his book. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to like the wholesale land thing. So sometimes when I say wholesale, people might think it's like assignments or like options or something. So when I say wholesale, I just mean like buying and selling portfolios in bulk to and from investors. So the reason why we started doing this is liquidity, because we could buy, for example, I'll share 3 portfolios that we just recently liquidated. So we bought 450 properties in Izard County, Arkansas, and then 400 in Benton County, Missouri, and 400 in St. Clair. So I think that was like 14 or 15 months ago. So that's like 1,200 properties right there. And if we tried to create 1,200 notes, I would have pulled my hair out. And try to, from trying to sell that many properties retail. So we use wholesale as a supplement to our business, and we use it for liquidity and just to keep the cash rolling. So one thing that's really worked for us is we don't cherry pick, right? So a lot of people, when they're buying land wholesale, they'll try to pick out like 2 or 3 of the best parcels that some investor has, and and we don't do that. So we always go to an investor and we buy the entire list, because when you cherry pick, it puts them in a hard position because you're taking like their best inventory and they don't want to work with you. And we quickly built a reputation for buying the entire list, because for the right price you can move anything. So the pros and cons of it, it's very fast liquidity and very fast turnover for your inventory, but the things that suck about it is the minimal margin. So it's only like 20%. So how to buy wholesale land deals, I'm sure all of you pretty much know this, but I would say the first thing is to start with Facebook groups. It's kind of crazy. There's a whole bunch of Facebook groups. Whether you do the big stuff or you do, you can apply this model to anything. Even if you're doing one property that's $100,000, you can buy it wholesale from another investor. And they might want to just, get it off their hands and make $20,000. So the way I did it was literally just cold calling people, like land investors from LandWatch. I would click through their page and I would just find their phone numbers and call them. So the next thing is quality, right? So when you're buying land wholesale, it's pretty much the same thing as if you're buying it from the end owner. You just want to make sure that you do the same type of due diligence to make sure everything checks out. And the last thing that a lot of people don't understand, when they're sending you wholesale land deals, you want to make sure that the price that you're actually paying is truly wholesale. Because sometimes I'll get emails there being like, hey, do you want to buy this portfolio from us? And they'll try to sell it to us at like 90% of retail value. And there's just no way we're gonna like buy that. And on the selling side, one thing that's really helped us is every property and portfolio that we sell, we make sure that the land investor who buys from us has to make money. So we don't sell anything that people are, sometimes it's bad marketing, that's why things don't sell, but we try to make sure that the deal always pencils for everybody involved in the whole process. So that is it. Any questions? Sure. Yeah, so not every deal works for wholesale, so that's why we have the retail business too. But when it works, so I'll give an example. So we just picked up some lots in Cochise County, Arizona. So I think we are selling them for $800 or something, and they sell for like $1,800 cash and more owner financing. So we make sure that the investor who buys can at least double their money. And does that answer the question?
So 40 would give an 80 and still give some room for the next guy.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Usually, so the way we've usually done this is we'll buy it at 30% and then we'll sell it at 50%, and then the investor makes like the double markup.
Hey, how do you manage a team? Because I mean that's a lot of volume, right? So how do you manage your team to handle that much due diligence and like get it done correctly?
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind is we don't talk to 1,000 different people, right? We only made 3 major acquisitions, and that was 1,200 lots. So it's actually just one deal, right? Because there's 300 properties in the portfolio, but if you do, it's one transaction and you buy 300 lots. But as far as the team, like the nice thing is if you saw earlier, we had 4 people in the States, and each person kind of does their own thing. And for due diligence, we just send it to the VA team.
So, are you doing due diligence in general, all 300 within the portfolio, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I'm not super detailed with stuff. I just make sure the major things check out. Because sometimes you might have a few things that come up, but so far it's only been a very small percentage of our buys.
Just to clarify, that could be wrong. Most of the stuff you buy, so it's all pretty commodities, right? It's not like random lots that we're right now. It's like 200 lots in this old weird subdivision, is that right?
Exactly. So it's.
So, Candice, you said, how does he handle due diligence? Again, I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but from what I've seen is you buy a lot of stuff in old, crappy subdivisions. That used to be my strategy, right? And due diligence is super, super simple. Typically, there's going to be no utilities. Maybe there's going to be power. We're really just looking at topo. There's pretty much always going to be access or platted access. It does become a question of physically, can you get to the property? People still buy them even if you can't. Flood zones, and that's pretty much it, right? So due diligence is super simple. Now, if you're buying 200 lots dispersed throughout a county, it's a totally different game. And these aren't buildable lots. Well, some of them are, but no one's going to build on them. You know what I mean? And so you're not really underwriting it like you would a typical infill lot, even though most of these are infill lots. It's kind of a whole different game. Yeah. I got one question for you, Peter. Can I ask you this question? I know now is probably a scary time to be raising debt, and I probably wouldn't do this if I were you, but I'm just curious, whether it's doing it previously or doing it in the future, why not just circumvent the wholesale stuff entirely and raise some debt? It could be a fund or whatever it may be. I bet you have enough KPIs now on your owner finance stuff to say, hey, we could sell through this much inventory. These are the turn times. Here's going to be your returns. We could pay out 20% to an investor and just avoid the whole wholesale. Now, again, a little scary right now, but can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, so the only debt that we've ever taken was from QuickBooks Capital. So they gave us a loan for our company last year. Honestly, I'm just not really comfortable yet, and we haven't had the need to raise capital. And I feel like it's just, you don't have to really answer to investors and things like that. So I prefer to kind of just keep like, I don't know, I just prefer to keep it going like how it is. But I think maybe as we like, you know, down the line, we'll probably have to, but I'm just delaying that as much as possible.
So with the profits from wholesaling, what do you guys do? Do you snowball that back into more owner finance deals, or what's the play there from the wholesale sales?
Yeah, so honestly, so one thing that's really important for me is liquidity. So usually we go buy more land, but also I don't mind just sitting on capital and waiting for the right deal to come, because if you're trying to take down 400, 500 parcels, like Drew was working on one in Arizona, and you needed like $500,000, but the guy had hundreds of lots. So if you just can sit on your capital sometime and just wait for the right deal, that's kind of what we do.
Anyone else have questions?
Thank you. Good talk, Peter. Thanks very much. As you look at getting started, maybe buying some land from you and to put it up on the market, so just kind of get a feel for what is the acreage of your typical lot. And if we were to try and, try my hand on, let's say, I want to get some owner financing done and I want to buy 10 lots from you. What does the profile look like in terms of acreage? Where is it usually located? Where do you play in terms of regionally? And then what kind of terms would you expect would be reasonable to get in the market if we were to go out and owner finance?
Okay, yeah, so I'll give you a real example of Izard County. So that was by far our best acquisition. We actually went out to the tax sale and we kind of shocked them because they did not every year they did not expect us to buy the whole list, right? So how it worked is we sold those for $800, and a lot of investors sell them for like $2,000 cash and $199 a month for like 24 months. So. So the thing is, we don't put any interest on our owner financing. We just charge a much higher price for owner financing, and then we divide it by like the number of months.
For a lot of like the contract for deed sales on the smaller properties, they just bake in interest and they just say 0%. But of course, there's going to be a premium to it. Gary, you got a question?
Yeah, so logistically, how do you take title to 300 parcels? And who's doing that work, and how much does that cost you?
So I'll talk about it on the disposition side, because on the buy side, usually if we're buying it from another investor, they'll just create a deed and record it in our name. Or you can, of course, like go through title. But on the sell side, we have like an in-house team that does all the deeds. So we like self-close a lot of the properties. Does that make sense? Using like Simplifile.
So on the buy side, is it just one deed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes. And then sometimes if it's like packages, it can be, it varies, but mostly it's just like one deed and with like an Exhibit A with like 100 lots.
Ajay, you're too far away, man.
Hey, Peter, really nice to meet you, man. No, I'm teasing, guys. Peter's one of my best friends. We hang out pretty often. We were both in Chicago for a long time. First, I just want to praise him. Peter, something you're so good at. I mean, the way he delivers this, it seems so simple because Peter makes it out to be that way. He's running a fairly complex business with quite a few details. And Peter, something I just want to praise you for. A lot of us in this room are overthinkers, and I don't mean this as an insult, but Peter, you are such an underthinker, man, in like the best way possible. Like Peter's gonna be the guy that built $1 billion company by 30 just because nobody told him he couldn't do it, So anyways, just praise for you, my friend. What I
might start crying, man. That's so cute. Thank you.
Hey, so actual question though, relating back to our good friend Marlon, Marlon, with the mindset, man, can you just speak to some of the adversity you've faced in your business and just sort of how you've overcome that? Because there's definitely been multiple times where it's like, what are you doing? And you found a way. So just speak to kind of how you're going through that. I know you like the woo-woo and the meditations and the cold plunges and all those things, man. So just speak a little to that.
I should have done like 3 cold plunges this morning, but... Okay, so, one thing I will say is like sometimes I used to overthink a lot in my other businesses, and that's why we didn't really like grow really fast. But we've made mistakes. Like, I'll tell you one about mailers. The only time I sent mailers was I decided to send 50,000 of them, and they were not all of them in like one county or nothing. It was literally like 10 states, and there was no specific county, nothing. It was literally postcards. Sent 50,000 of them, never sent mailers, and I sent them all out within a 6-week period. And we had like 2 people just working at that time, and I was still training them. And basically, we hit like 1,000 calls. Yeah, literally, it was we got a huge bill from Answer Force, which is who we used. So. Yeah, but it was crazy because we just said, oh, cash for land, check out these, like call us. So we got a ton of calls, and I didn't have a team set up. So we basically like just pulled the plug on the whole thing and lost 30 grand very, very quickly. But the thing is, it's also like speed, right? So we made that mistake, and then I was like, okay, did the mailers thing, scratched my itch, and within like a week later, we were back to doing our core business. And like, I don't really care. Like, I don't mind taking shots. And because I started with $2,000 when I started the business, and I was like, what do I lose, $2,000? I had like, I worked for like 3-4 years. I had saved up some money from the computer business and then wired half of it to some guy that scammed me. So basically I don't care. Like, we're gonna keep taking shots. Like, we're gonna just keep it going. And if we, but one thing I will say that has helped is implementing profit first. So every month for like the last 2 years, there's a certain percentage of money that goes from our operational account into a reserve account, and we never touch the funds in the reserve account. So when you have that reserve account, it gives you after a while, it gives you a really long runway. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to, if you just have that I just call it the holy account, and that's kind of like a rainy day fund. And when you have that, your risk-taking appetite just goes through the roof.
Dude, one of the things I want to compliment you on, and this is probably one of my favorite characteristics to see in people, is, like I said before, just like an extreme level of resourcefulness. Like, you just embody that, man. And I find that to be a pretty virtuous, it's just a really cool thing to have. And I think that's like what separates, I always say, like, I don't think I'm a great land investor. I'm definitely not like the land nerd that knows everything about land. No offense to the people that are, Jerry. But what I am good at is being resourceful. Like, I will always find a way. When I see that in other people, I just love it. It's just such a cool skill set. So kudos, man.
Thank you.
You have any more questions? Yeah.
Hey, Peter. So
man,
you remind me of a guy that actually sells Delta 8 at, he's from Yemen, and he's like, same thing, like retail, wholesale. He does the wholesale to supplement. He's always like talking Arabic on the phone, and shit. But this is the question. Part of my philosophy is that the richest man in the world is the one who wakes up with the lightest load on his chest. What keeps you up at night? What stresses you out with all this going on?
Got it. So just to make sure I understood you correctly, what stresses me out?
What keeps you up at night?
This presentation.
All right. You nailed it, Peter. You did great.
I'm just kidding. Okay. So, so what keeps me up at night? Okay, so I'll talk about what keeps me up at night now. So it's actually really interesting. We were talking about this with some of the guys yesterday, Drew, and I was telling him, like, we were just hanging out in the afternoon. Yeah, I won't tell the story. But we played a little hooky, like, for an hour. But anyway, so when I started, like I said, I was really willing to take shots. Like, every time we would bet the farm, and I had no problem with that. But now it's kind of like some of that fear is like, now I'm more like, I'm just thinking we're not moving as fast as heavily as we used to, right? So I think some of that fear of like losing what you've built up is sometimes what keeps me up. But, we're still going to be out there taking shots. So.
Oh, I know you will. I know you will. That Delta 8 comment's hilarious. I actually have a quick story. I'm definitely not a drinker, and I hate smoking weed. It does not gel with me. My psychology is not built for it. When Sarah and I first started dating, we said, let's fast track this relationship. And so we moved to Hawaii for a month to the Big Island. And we had just finished an amazing hike, and weed's not legal there, but they can sell at Delta 8. We go on an amazing hike, and we had picked up these little Delta 8 edibles, and he said they're 10 milligrams. 10 milligrams would put me on my ass. I'm like, there's no way I would even dare take that. But she's a little more courageous than I am, pops the whole thing. An hour later, she's literally melting in the seat. Turns out it was a 100 milligram Delta 8 edible. You've never seen someone in this state before. Literally, I actually was concerned that I was going to have to drive her to the hospital. There was a lot of tears, a lot of yelling, and she slept it off and slept for 13 hours, but it was pretty insane. Any more questions? All right, let's give it up for Peter, man. You did a great job. High five, brother. You killed it, man. Thank you.